Time to play the game. Time to play the game.
Welcome back, YouTubers. I am Jason Wiersema. This is Tankers Fantasy Football, and we are going to get into some stardom sit-ems for this week, heading into your week 5 matchups. But before we do, you know how we do it around here at Tankers Fantasy. Maybe you give us a subscribe, maybe you don't. Maybe you throw us a like, maybe you don't. Maybe you go fuck yourself. We're going to, without further ado, we're going to get right into it. We're going to lead off with some wide receiver starts. We're going to do Larry Fitzgerald at Cincinnati. Christian Kirk's looking to miss this game. The Bengals are giving up the 4th fewest yards, but I am not afraid. They shut down Juju, but I am not afraid. Fitzgerald's going to absolutely eat this week in Cincinnati. Start him with confidence. We got Hollywood Brown coming off his back-to-back 6-point shitters out there. He's got the Steelers, who are 24th in yards allowed and giving up 186 yards. 2 wide receivers thus far this season, so do not be afraid to get your flex ready with some sexy Hollywood Brown in there this week. And we got Scary Terry. If he plays versus New England, I would go ahead and fire him up. I mean, they're gonna be chasing all game against the Patriots, so Scary Terry could easily, if he's out there, he could easily see double-digit targets out there. We got some Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. I know people are talking about can you tell somebody to start Odell Beckham Jr.? I'm telling you, besides that one play versus the Jets, he hasn't really done dick all for you, but he's got the Niners this week are giving him the 5th most points to wide receivers thus far. So I think all in on Jarvis Landry and some Odell Beckham Jr. We got Tyler Boyd, kind of a last man standing situation. Everybody else in Cincinnati is dead. AJ Green's out. John Ross is looking to miss multiple weeks now. So it is Tyler Eifert and it is Tyler Boyd to the world. So I think all in flex play Tyler Boyd this week. And Julian Edelman and Josh Gordon versus the Redskins are giving the most touchdowns to wide receivers and the 2nd most fantasy points to wide receivers as well. So all in on the Patriots this week. I know Julian Edelman and Josh Gordon went out there and shit the bed for you versus the Bills, but the Bills secondary is top notch, so I would expect a solid bounce back week for these two gentlemen. All right, we got a couple more starts. We got Diggs and Thielen playing against the Giants, giving up the 6th most yards, 209 yards to opposing wide receivers a week are the Giants. So all in on the Stefon Diggs and the Adam Thielen. Talking about, greasy wheel kind of situation. I know Diggs might be getting traded. There's trade rumors out there with Diggs. He sat out practice with no explanation, so that kind of get the rumor mill going on out there. But I'm just not sure. I still think he suits up this week for the Vikings. So if he does, I would be all in with him versus the Giants. We got Calvin Ridley coming off a 1-pointer in week 3 and a 6-pointer in week 4, but he's got the Texans are giving him the 8th most yards to wide receivers, 195 yards a game. So I wouldn't be afraid to flex play some Calvin Ridley this week as well. All right, we got one more start. We got Alshon Jeffrey playing against the Jets, giving up the 2nd most yards to wide receivers at 220 yards a game. I know Aguilar went out there and gave you the stinker last week, but if you are in a desperation play, I guess Aguilar wouldn't be the worst thing that could happen to you. All right, we're going to move into some sits. We got some Marquise Valdez-Scantling and Geronimo Allison. Devontae Adams is probably looking to sit, but I'm still not too excited about these two prospects going down to Dallas. They're giving up the 5th fewest yards and the 3rd fewest touchdowns to opposing wide receivers. So I guess if you are in a pinch, I guess I would choose Geronimo Allison over MVS. Not really sure what my decision making on that one is, but I just have the feeling that Geronimo Allison can be more of a possession wide receiver, get those receptions up than MVS. All right, we're going to a couple more sits. We got A.J. Brown, Corey Davis coming off huge weeks last week versus the Falcons, but they got the Bills, who I just said shut down Julian Edelman and Josh Gordon last week. The Bills are giving the 2nd fewest touchdowns and the 3rd fewest fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. So all in on the set of A.J. Brown and Corey Davis this week. All right, we got a couple more teammates, DJ Chark and D.D. Westbrook. I am playing DJ Chark in a league. Don't really have too many choices with injuries and bye weeks circling around like buzzards over my team right now. But, I mean, they do have a tough matchup versus the Panthers. They're 7th in yards and 3rd in touchdowns to opposing wide receivers. But I do like the cut of the DJ Chark's jib. But, you know, I'm going to temper expectations this week. We got some Michael Gallup coming back from injury. But, I mean, if he plays, you know, it's a good sign. I'm not too excited about it this week because he's playing against the Packers, giving them the fewest yards and the 3rd fewest touchdowns to opposing wide receivers. So Gallup and Amari Cooper, kind of a temper expectation situation for them this week. All right, we're going to move into some running backs. Lead it off with some LaShawn McCoy versus the Indianapolis Colts. Are giving the 25th, or who are 25th in yards allowed. 2 running backs giving up 145 scrimmage yards, 2 backs a game, along with the 6th. They're giving up the 6th most fantasy points to running backs as well. So I think LaShawn McCoy can be a solid back-end RB2 for you this week. We got Mixon. I know. I hate you, Joe. We gave him the shit gun deluxe on yesterday's episode. I think if he goes out there and gets it done versus the Cardinals, you should absolutely sell Joe Mixon. But I mean, I think he is a start this week. The Cardinals are 23rd in yards allowed with 144 yards to running backs all week. So I mean, if he doesn't get it done this week, I mean, if he's looking in single-digit PPR versus the Cardinals in Cincinnati, and we might be talking about benching Joe Mixon moving forward. We got James Conner and Samuels playing against the Ravens. Ravens D appears to be tough on paper. Just looking at him makes you feel like you shouldn't start running backs versus the Ravens. Went out there and got shredded by Nick Chubb last week. The Ravens are giving the 3rd most touchdowns and the 5th most fantasy points to opposing running backs. So if James Conner does suit up, I would also run him and Jalen out there. Jalen getting about 50% of the snaps. I think Jalen can also be a solid flex play for you. Got a couple of guys here, kind of game script guys, kind of PPR guys, kind of on their teams are probably looking to be trailing by 2 or 3 scores comes the second half. So I think they'll be game scripted and possibly get out there and get you, 5, 6 receptions on the day. Talking about Nyheim Hines and Chris Thompson. Hines is at Kansas City. Definitely game script situation there. And Thompson is versus the Patriots. So another definite game script situation there. All right, we got some sits at running back. Aaron Jones, I mean, you might not be able to sit him, especially if Jamal Williams sits. Jamal Williams went out early last week. All the Aaron Jones owners were probably just salivating at the fact that Jamal Williams went down early in that game. And then Aaron Jones kind of went out there and shit the bed with Jamal Williams sitting out. But he's got the Cowboys this week, are giving the 4th fewest points to running back. So I know you probably have to start him. But I'm just saying to temper your expectations, right? Marlon Mack, he's banged up. Even if he does suit up, I think he could be game scripted out of this game early versus the Chiefs. You could see very limited work, Marlon Mack, in the second half, especially with him banged up. So if you have any other options, I would look to explore them. We got Josh Jacobs versus the Bears. They're giving the 8th fewest yards and the 3rd fewest touchdowns. And they held the amazing Dalvin Cook to 14 carries for 35 yards last week. So if Jacobs isn't involved in the passing game like he hasn't been thus far this season, I don't know. I mean, Jacobs is definitely, I think you have to start him because you probably don't have too many other options like a lot of these guys, but definitely a temper expectations in London versus the Bears for Josh Jacobs. So we got some Gore, Singletary. They're at the Titans. The Titans are giving the 4th fewest touchdowns and the 5th fewest points to running backs, so I think all in on the sit of all Bills running backs this week. Got one more sit. I know he's kind of like the waiver wire darling. He's kind of like trending upward. Ronald Jones went out there and finally outsnapped Peyton Barber in last week's games, but he does have the Saints. Saints are tough as nails. Gave up only 18 carries for 35 yards to the amazing Ezekiel Elliott last week. They're giving the 6th fewest yards, the 4th fewest touchdowns. So if you can afford to let Ronald Jones sit on your bench for one more week, I think I would do so. All right, we are moving in. So a little bit of tight end action. We got some sit Delaney Walker. Bills are giving the 2nd fewest yards of tight ends, and they haven't given up a touchdown to a tight end yet this season. So if you got any other options, I'd go with a good old sit on the old Delaney Walker. We got a couple starts at tight end. We got Ebron versus the Chiefs. fourth most yards. And, you know, game script, the Colts are probably going to be looking to huck it and chuck it the entire second half. Jack Doyle got knocked out by Burfict last week. Burfict is spinning for the season for that hit, so he might also be missing this game, so that would give more targets for Eric Ebron as well. We got Dawson Knox, the Buffalo Bills starting tight end, streaming tight end, Deluxe, along with Tyler Eifert, streaming tight end, Deluxe, playing against the Cardinals. We're giving up a touchdown to tight end every week thus far this season, but back to Dawson Knox. The Titans are giving the third most points to tight end. So if you're in need of some tight end help this week, check out Dawson Knox and Tyler Eifert. All right, we got a start at quarterback, couple starts at quarterback. We got Kirk Cousins. Giants giving up the fifth most yards, and Teddy Bongwater. When the Bucks are giving up the most yards, 338 yards a game are the Bucks. So, I mean, if you're in desperate need of quarterback, you need a streaming quarterback option. I would look for Cousins and Teddy B this week. All right, we got one defense, and, you know, a couple defensive plays, I guess. If Sam Darnold sits again, I think Eagles D is a D you can go out there and get off the waiver wire for cheap and get all in. And if you're in absolute dire need, just dying for a defense, I think the Chiefs versus the Colts is also a decent defense to go out there. I know the Colts haven't really given up that much to opposing defenses. We got to think game script. Got to think Jacoby Brissett's going to be put under the gun. And if that's the case, like last week when he was trailing versus the Raiders, bad things happen. Pick sixes, turnovers, sacks. I think the Chiefs can get it done for you this week on defense. All right, you like the cut of my jib? You know, you give us a little subscribe, you go down there and you hit that little thumbs up button for me, you know, and go ahead and do that for me. I would greatly appreciate it. Put any of your stardom sit-em, any of your trade questions, put that shit in the comment section below. I will get back at you. All right, holler at me.
I'm hot as fuck, bitch.